because we're good people. Doesn't mean we won't kill you. 5 of them aren't back in an hour. I'll put a knife in the base of your skull.
Hey, what's going on, guys? Matt back again with another throwback review. This is going to be for Season 2, Episode 11, entitled Judge, Jury, and Executioner. Episode starts out in the farm's shed, out by the bar and everything. There's a shed and everything. Daryl interrogates and he beats a bound Randall, poor guy. Randall confesses that he was traveling with a heavily armed group of 30. The men, he said, they have raped women before, but of course Randall said he ain't like that. He didn't do it. Daryl reports back to the rest of the group, telling them what he had told him about the 30 men and everything. Rick declares Randall's a threat and then he must be killed. Of course, Dale, you just can't decide this on your own to take someone's life. He says, begging Rick to give him the time to talk to the group to find another way. Rick agrees to give Dale the rest of the day, and then at sunset, what happens. Dale asks Andrea to guard Randall against Shane while he talks to the others. He asks if Andrea agrees that Randall should be killed, and of course, Dale argues, the world we know is gone, but keeping our humanity, that's a choice. Andrea agrees to watch Randall, but not because she thinks that he's right. From inside the shed, Randall overhears Shane approach him with Carl. Carl is curious about the prisoner, but Shane insists let the grown-ups handle it. Shane asks Andrea, who's standing guard outside, if she should stop him if he were to go in there and try to shoot Randall. She insists she would. Shane shares his suspicion that Rick won't be able to go through with the execution. He said, every time we have a problem around here, who do you think's behind it? He said, meanwhile, Carl watches Randall from the rafters of the shed. Randall notices him, and he's like, I didn't do anything. He tells Carl, he's begging to be set free, basically. Carl slowly starts walking towards Randall, but is halted when Shane enters. Shane shoves a gun in Randall's face, drags Carl out of the shed, says, quit trying to get yourself killed, man. Dale approaches Daryl about Randall, and, Daryl said this group's broken, stating he doesn't care what happens either way. Dale asks Daryl to stand with him anyway, but Daryl won't. Lori finds Rick tying a noose in the barn. He asks if she supports his decision, and she says if you think it's best, asking about what happened on the road with Shane, and he said he won't be a problem anymore. Carl is kneeling by Sophia's grave when Carol approaches. She said, well, we'll see Sophia again in heaven. Carl basically snaps back and says, heaven is just another line. If you believe it, you're an idiot. And then, of course, later, Rick chastises Carl for talking back to Carol. Says, don't talk, think. Dale goes to Herschel asking for his support. And Herschel says, I don't want to know. I leave it with Rick. Carl wanders into where Daryl's camped out, because Daryl is camped out farther away from everybody else. He likes to be on his own. And of course, Carl's wandering around. He finds a handgun stashed in Daryl's saddlebags of his motorcycle. Of course, he puts it in his pocket, heads into the forest. Carl stumbles upon a walker stuck in the mud in a creek bed. And of course, then just being an idiot, he starts throwing rocks at it. Then approaches it to shoot it with a gun. Then the walker lunges at Carl, eventually freeing himself from the mud, grabbing Carl's leg. Of course, Carl panics, gets away, and then just runs away. He doesn't shoot it. Meanwhile, Dale is trying to convince Shane to spare Randall. What a lost cause there, right? Shane gives Dale credit for the effort and says that if Dale convinces the others, he'll go along with it. But I'm telling you now, Shane says, you're wrong. Back in the farmhouse, Glenn finds Herschel checking up on Beth. Herschel asks Glenn about his family and tells him about his own Irish heritage. And this is when he gives Glenn the pocket watch that Glenn still has to this day. The pocket watch belonged to Herschel's grandfather. And he tells him that no man is good enough for your little girl until one is. Of course, as the sun sets, Rick again asks Lori if he thinks he's doing the right thing. Lori nods, yes. The group gathers in the house. Rick asks if anyone thinks Randall should be spared. Of course, Dale's like the only one who thinks himself, and he thinks, basically he says him and Glenn are the only ones that are on the thinks he should be spared. But then Glenn says, no, he's not one of us, so he's almost going against Dale. And then, Dale begs to give Randall a chance to prove himself, but the others insist that they wouldn't feel safe with him around camp. He says, if we do this, we're saying there is no hope. Dale pleads. Dale tells the group to do what's right. Andrea eventually sides with them, but the others stay silent. Dale just spent and just mad, because they're gonna go through with it. Just as he leaves, he goes over to Daryl and said, "This group is broken." Afterward, Rick, Shane, and Daryl bring Randall to the barn and put him on his knees, and then he's gonna execute him with Rick's handgun. Of course, Rick asks if he has any final words. Randall just cries, begs for him not to kill him. As Rick raises his gun, Carl enters the barn and says, "Do it, Dad, do it." And of course, Rick's shocked, lowers his gun, and orders Randall to be taken away. And Shane storms out of the barn to get Carl out of there. Rick brings Carl back to camp and tells Lori what happened, and he said he wanted to watch, and he said I couldn't do it. Meanwhile, Dale walks through the fields. He hears the moans of a dying cow, goes to investigate it. The cow has been gutted. He turns around and is attacked by the same walker that Carl couldn't kill in the creek bed. Back at the camp, the other hear Dale's screams. Daryl runs to the scene where the walker's on top of Dale, he basically tears his insides out, he tears his stomach open. Daryl doesn't get there in time, of course, but he does get there, and he stabs the walker in the head and shouts out for help. Dale's intestines are basically spilling out of his gut. It's really gross. He's starting to go into shock. When Herschel arrives, he reports that Dale can't be saved. As Dale is dying on the ground in pain, just writhing in pain, Carl sees the body of the walker that he was throwing rocks at, and now he feels guilty for not killing that walker. Andrea begs Rick to help Dale, and Rick unholsters his gun, but he can't shoot him. Daryl takes the gun from Rick and aims it at Dale, and the episode ends with Dale just basically putting his head up, and then the final words of Daryl before the gun goes off: "Sorry, brother." Like I said, a very emotional episode. We lost Dale. We lost Dale in this episode, so that sucks, because I always liked Dale. He was the voice of reason and everything. But so all in all, it was a pretty good episode. You could tell that the Shane and Rick thing keeps boiling, because, like I said, Shane was right. He wasn't going to go through with the execution. Something happened, and so it's only a matter of time before that comes to a head. But anyways, like I said, appreciate y'all checking this review out, and I'll be back soon with another review for season 2. Appreciate it so much.
Welcome to Woodburn.